Hi, I'm Lisa with Candles by Sincerely Ice Blue. I recently started my own candle making business, and one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how did you do that? How did you do that on a budget? How did you do that from home? Listen, it's not as hard as you think it is. All you have to do is have the mindset to get started. If you have the heart and you have the desire, you can do this. And you can get started for less than $150. Let's talk for a minute about where you're going to source the items you have to spend money on to make your candles or get a business started. Don't go overboard. First and foremost, do not go overboard. You are so going to want to. It is so easy. There is so much out there. But number one suggestion, talk to your family and friends. Who has things that you can borrow and use until you grow and have the money to expand your budget? 2, go to your local dollar store. 3, check Etsy. Etsy has a lot of different businesses you can buy from for a candle making starter package that'll include a lot of the supplies that you need to get going. They'll include wax and pitchers and spoons and wicks and fragrances. It's a great way for you to test the waters and see if you love it, if you hate it, is it something you want to do, and get you started rolling. Also, go to your local hobby stores. See if they have any clearance aisles. Go when they have coupons. Go when they have different specials running and they're clearing things out. You can always get things from last season. So right now, everything's out for the Halloween season, but there's clearance sales on all of the summer items. To get started making candles, you have to have a way to melt your wax. One great way to do that is with a double boiler. If you're familiar with this, you put your water in the bottom. Typically we put chocolate in the top, but we're going to melt wax instead. This works great. Now, if you don't have one and you don't have anybody you can borrow one from, usually you can find them at your local thrift stores. If you still can't find one, another way is you can take your own pots and make your own double boiler. Just make that larger pot on the bottom, the smaller one on the top. Now make sure you keep an eye on it. You don't want that pot to fall in, but you can make your own double boiler that way. Another option that you might have at home is a large Pyrex measuring cup or a measuring bowl. You can also hang this off of a side of a pot as well. I would want to use a smaller pot so that this sits on top of it and acts like a double boiler, but I could use this as well. Again, you want to be careful and understand your own products that you have in your house. Just make sure that if you are using something like this, it is safe for you to use at higher temperatures. The other option is I can purchase, if I don't already have one, remember we're talking about what we have at home, a pitcher. If you have a metal pitcher, you can use this to melt wax in. I can make a double boiler out of this by simply hooking it on the side of a larger pot filled with water. Now you're going to have to keep an eye on it so it doesn't tip over or float away, but I can melt my wax in this, and then I can also use it to pour it directly into my vessel or my candle holder. If I don't want to invest in that and I've already got the smaller one and I've got a double boiler, I can go with a smaller pitcher for pouring. Now I got this one when I first started out making candles by buying a kit. And the kit came with this handy dandy little pouring pitcher and also a little tiny spoon that I could use to stir when I'm melting my wax. Came in very handy also for stirring in my fragrance. That's another thing that you don't have to buy. But if you're going to make scented candles, we're going to add that to our list of things that we have to purchase, which would be fragrance. And you're going to have to do a lot of research on that as well. You're going to have a choice between many, many, many different fragrance oils. Okay, now when I'm melting my wax, I also need to measure the temperature. If you have a deep fryer at home, you probably have one of these at Thanksgiving when you're making your turkeys outside, or I had one of these as well, a smaller one for just grilling. You're going to need these to be able to understand at what temperature you need to heat your wax to, what temperature you will add your fragrance at, and what temperature you'll pour at. You're also going to need a scoop. You're going to use this for scooping your flakes into different containers for melting. You may use this for measuring out your fragrance. So a scooper, if you have one of those. You are going to need a scale. Many of us already have food scales at home from being on some sort of diet or plan or program. You can get them cheaply on Amazon for about $9 or $10. You can also find them sometimes, if you're lucky, at the dollar store. Now, your fragrances, you can measure out if you have one of these for mixology and making drinks at home. You can also use just an average standard shot glass for measuring that. Whatever I'm using, I'm going to put it on my scale, I'm going to clear it out, I'm going to measure my ounces, and I'm good to go. You're also going to need a device for holding your wicks in place. Something like this will work well, a clothespin. If you have cotter pins at home, those also work well. If you have popsicle sticks, if your kids eat a lot of popsicles, keep the popsicle sticks. I'm sure you do anyway, because kids love to make projects with popsicle sticks. But you'll stick those on the side of your wick, and that's to keep it from falling over once you pour your wax. Something else is a bin. If you have any bins, you're going to want something like this. Plastic bins, if you have to buy them, I suggest the dollar store. That's where I got this one. Any of the things I've mentioned so far, if you don't have it, ask family and friends first. Don't spend money you don't have to. Depending on how you buy your wax. Now, you can buy wax in bags of flakes. You can buy wax in bags of pellets. Just depends on your preference, on what you decide you want to use as a wax. Some of them come in big squares. Just like anything, the bigger you buy, bulk, just like shopping at your local warehouse clubs, Sam's, Costco, the bigger the bulk, the cheaper the per unit price. Same with purchasing your wax or your fragrances. So if you buy the wax in a large square, you need a way to chop it up. One of these works well. If you're a Pampered Chef fan, that's where I got mine originally, for chopping veggies and things to make them look great when I have parties. But if you don't have one of those, do you have a screwdriver? Do you have a long-handled screwdriver or something of that nature that you can use to break off just small pieces of wax? Use what you have, use what's going to work for you. So these are all the different items you're going to need to get started with making candles. But most of this we can find in our average kitchen. I also suggest, if you don't have one, it's the time of year to buy them, is a notebook and paper. You want to be able to write down what you're doing, what you've tried, what works, what doesn't work. You want to keep a log of whatever you spend. I began using Excel when I first started. Whatever you do, you want to keep your receipts. You're going to want to calculate how much each candle is costing you to make so that you can then price it accordingly. You're also going to want to invest in some labels so that you can put labels onto your candles. If you're going to sell them, you're going to want to put labels on them. A lot of us have printers in our homes that we can already use. If you don't, you can go to your local library, you can go to a local print shop, you can go to a Walgreens. You can get started in this business. And don't let it stop you because you think you don't have enough supplies. You have what it takes to get started. Like I mentioned, there are some costs that you're going to have to get started making candles. So what we've covered so far is wax, the wicks, the candle holders or vessels, the fragrance oils, and possibly labels to be able to put those labels onto the vessels so that you can name them all kinds of fun candle names. You're going to also, if you're selling them, need to put a label on them with a warning. So if you turn over any of your candles that you have at home, you'll see there's a warning that's required by law. Lastly, if you're going to be selling them, you are going to have to consider how to ship them, how to package them. If you're going to do any kind of local craft shows or farmers markets where you're going to be setting up a table, there may be costs involved in that. Yes, there are those additional costs, but don't let that stop you. Quick recap. You have the tools you need at home to get started. Do you have the heart? Do you have the mindset? Do you have the time? Don't worry about the space. You're going to make that space. You don't need a lot. You just need an area to set your candles to cool or to store them. Do you have a cupboard that you're not using or you can clean out? Do you have a pantry space? Do you have a guest bedroom? Do you have space on your floor? I don't recommend that if you have children or pets. But if it's just you, use your floor space. Use whatever you have to get started and get your business going and be successful. With that being said, if there's any questions or comments, drop them in the comments box. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell so that you get notified when I post more videos like this. And I wish you the best of luck getting started in your candle business, following your dreams. Until next time, stay awesome.